Hey friends, what's up? Phillip here with Points with Phillip, and well, I have some thoughts about some news that's been going on. I'm sure you're no doubt aware of the fact that the Capital One acquisition of Discover has been approved in theory with regulatory agencies, and it's also been approved by both of the shareholders of both companies. So it looks like more or less this deal will go down. Now there was some question, but the political forces after November have been a little bit more favorable towards this merger coming true, and so that is what it is. So one of the things that I wanted to focus on in this video is I just want to talk about things that I really loved about or currently love about Discover and where it is. And unfortunately, I think that we might be kind of in a high point of Discover, at least according to like the things that we as consumers like, because I feel like Capital One has made it very clear where they are with respect to dealing with customers. And a lot of it's more cost cutting instead of actually like focusing on things that customers might like. So that anyway is what I wanted to talk about in this video. So I want to talk about what I loved about Discover, just because, well, there's a lot to love about Discover, at least the way it is currently. And so hopefully it's not going to be a time capsule of the way things used to be. Hopefully that this still gets to be the way things are. But anyway, this is what I love about it. So let's get into the top lines. I know we're a little late to that. So Discover has some of the best interest rate policies and promos in the business. If you're someone who is looking to put a purchase away over time, or if you're looking to, kind of subsidize maybe a period of time when you're not able to work, like if you're in college taking classes and you want to pay it off during a summer job or something, these were the cards for you. Now they also had an interesting intro bonus as well. So it was truly unlimited. You could, if you spent $100,000 on the card, you got double the cash back for whatever that spend was. But it also rewarded you at an even rate depending on how much your spend was. So the Discover It regular card, that gets 5% back in one pre-selected category every quarter. But it also gets 1% back on everything else. And so if you had the card for the first year, you had the sign-up bonus of double cash back. So that meant 10% cash back in whatever the category was for that quarter, but then also 2% cash back on everything else, meaning that you could quite theoretically do really well for yourself having one card set up as long as it was the Discover It card. So that was interesting. They were also strictly cash back, but you can also redeem cash back into checking accounts. So that's kind of unique. I know a lot of people seem to care about that. Discover is also very friendly for new credit users. And so it was a great way to kind of get your foot in the door and have, decent credit lines and being able to kind of learn more about how credit cards work. So what are the cards? So the major cards here are going to be the Discover It card. You also have the Discover It Miles card and the Discover It Chrome card. Now there's also student cards and secured cards as well, but I think the two major flagship products of Discover are going to be the Discover It card and the Discover It Miles, and then we'll get into those here in a second. Now the Discover It card has, like I said, has 5% cash back on a single category. And then essentially, basically, you get 1% cash back on everything else. So now let's take a look at the interest benefits. So Discover rather, as a bank was very, very forgiving when it came to interest rates. So most unsecured cards came with an intro offer of double cash back, but also a 15-month 0% APR introductory rate on purchases. Now, 15 months. Now, that's kind of the upper end of what other banks do. Now, Chase also offers a couple things that are like that. American Express offers a couple business products that have the 12 months interest free. So there are some interesting exceptions, but 15 is really category leading for the most part. But they also would have special transfer balance transfer bonuses as well, where you could have 0% APR on balance transfers for a set period of time. And some of their cards, like the Discover It Miles, actually has a intro balance transfer fee. So normally it's 5%, but if you do a balance transfer within a certain period of time of getting the card, it actually is 3%. So you can save money on that. And you also don't have to pay any money on the balance transfer APR. So that can be helpful for you as well. Now, in addition to those incredible offers, if you keep the card open past that point, you can also have unique targeted lower interest rate promos that can hit your account. So, for instance, the most recent target that I received from Discover was a 2.99% interest rate for a year on any purchase. Any purchases, so it wasn't just a single purchase. But yeah, so 2.99. So that if that's better than the interest rate that you normally have on your credit card, and it almost certainly is, and you are planning on paying on something over time, well, it could be a little bit cheaper for you. Or if you're trying to pay off a credit card balance at 2.99% could be really helpful. So one thing that's interesting to know about Discover is that you can actually have 2 cards at any given time. And you have to wait a year in between getting each card. So once you get approved for Discover card, you have to wait another year in order to be approved for another one. But the fact that the 15-month interest rate promo was here meant that essentially you didn't have to worry about having interest rates on purchases at any given time, because you could cycle those 2 cards out. And so pretty much any given point in time, you could have a card that earned 0% interest on purchases or balance transfers. And so that was a good way to kind of manage your expectations if you needed to over a several month period without paying any interest. And so that is really a big deal for a lot of people. Now, my 2 favorite cards, and the 2 cards that I actually have, are the Discover It card, and that gives, of course, we talked about it a number of times, 5% back on pre-selected quarterly categories, and they have to be activated in the app each quarter in order to be able to use them. Now, the current quarter the current bonus is on grocery and wholesale stores. We also have sometimes you can do Amazon, sometimes you can do Walmart purchases, things like that. So this is one of my Discover It cards, and we'll get into the other one here in a second. But then the Discover It Miles, and so this one here is kind of has a standard look. It's kind of metallic-y, but this one is interesting. So this one has a lot of the same APR bonuses, but it's 1.5% cash back on everything. So it's a kind of a catch-all. But in the first year, that 1.5% becomes 3% thanks to the sign-up bonus. So this is actually just as good as the Robinhood Gold Card when it comes to shopping, because this is 3% everything in the first year. And well, the Robinhood Gold Card is probably not likely to keep 3% past the next year. So, this could be pretty solid. And so that is an option. So let's get into some other reasons that you could want to have the card. So you can actually change your Discover It card designs anytime and for free. And so you can actually hold multiple versions of the cards. So you can actually have a different design for every day of the week if you want. So this one was my first one, this kind of metallic-y blue one. But then I decided that it was getting a little bored with it. So I actually got this cool little kind of retro design that has kind of the dawn of Discover, one of their first huge ads. And so this is a card that really, it's cool. It has a different unique design, and you can kind of play around. They also have some dogs and different kinds of pets and oceans and things like that for designs. So you can really kind of play around with it, and you can replace your card for free. And both of these cards are active. So if I wanted to keep one in my car or something like that, I could keep this one in my car, keep this one in my wallet, and no matter what, I will have an active Discover card. It's the same account. So that's kind of nice. Discover is also very well known for great customer service, and they're also pretty widely accepted in my area. In fact, there's been a number of businesses in the outskirts of Orlando where people have rejected American Express but accepted Discover. And I know a lot of us kind of tend to loop in the Discover and American Express together, but in my experience, if someone is willing to reject anything, it's most likely going to be American Express, not Discover. So Discover pretty widely accepted. Overseas, it's very different. Their network is very poor. Hardly anybody in Paris took Discover, and hardly anybody in England took Discover as well. So now, why am I talking about this? What's changing? So Capital One has been approved to officially acquire Discover. They will purchase the credit card base and also the network, which is arguably the most important part of the business. Now, having Capital One is one of the largest issuers of credit cards, and now that that is cleared to purchase Discover, it hasn't happened yet. This new company would conceivably be the largest credit card issuer in the country. Now, if they had control of their own network, so the Discover payment network, then that would be able to lock Visa and MasterCard out of a significant portion of the card carrying public. So that would be interesting. But it could also lead to higher costs for merchants and higher prices, things like that. It could. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that it will, but it could. So Capital One could engage in cost cutting or gut Discover completely and rebrand the network to Capital One Pay or something like that. I'm sure they're workshopping that as we speak. But time will tell what happens. But at the end of the day, I definitely don't think that Discover will stay the way they are. And so it's kind of an end of an era for consumers, or at least the beginning of an end of an era. And well, there's a lot to love about Discover, and there's a reason why a lot of it, for a lot of people, Discover is their first credit card, and so we'll see if that changes. But thanks so much for joining me, and I can't wait to see you guys next time.